Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to the Getting Started with Collaborative Application Portfolio Management webinar. My name is Tom de Ridder. I am a Blue Dolphin evangelist and the platform architect at Value Blue. I'll be performing this webinar today along with a sidekick, which is Daisy. Daisy will be taking care of all the questions you might have and replaying or relaying them back to me. We'd really like you to ask questions if you have anything that you have questions about. There is a question availability to ask questions by using the question mark icon in your GoToWebinar toolbar. The questions will then show up in a list of questions, and then Daisy will relay them to me after we've done the initial webinar. Furthermore, there will be a replay and evaluation available as soon as this webinar is done. You'll be getting an email with the replay in it, the link to the replay, the webinar slides, if any, and a feedback form. And we really like you to give some feedback so we might improve our webinars at a later date. So this webinar is about application portfolio management. So up front, I have a few questions which I would like you to answer if you'd like to. So I will be clicking the launch button on the polls. Some questions will pop up. You can make a choice. I'll give you a couple of seconds to answer them, and we can go over them as soon as they come in. So I kind of get an idea of what we are dealing with here in terms of application portfolio management maturity. There we go. So here's the poll. It's about approximately what percentage of your application landscape is managed. All right, answers are coming in. All right, let's close this one. So the question was approximately what percentage of your application landscapes is currently mapped out or documented, and the results are various. There's quite a large portion of you attending who has a pretty good grasp already on the application landscapes, 42%. Although people voted that 65 to 95% of their landscape is already mapped out, which is a great starting point. Hopefully we can give you some more pointers on how to expand on that. Thank you so far. I have another question. It's about how many people are involved in keeping the application information up to date. Hopefully you can answer that question as well. Let's see, here we are. Okay, so the answer to that is also quite varied. How many people are involved in your current APM practice? 30% says 1 to 5. Also 30% says 6 to 10 people. This is important because we think, from Value Blue, we think that the more people are involved with application portfolio management, the more effort you can put into it, the more information is gathered from several people to give a good insight in the application portfolio landscape. And I have a final question on what the tooling you currently use to manage your application portfolio. management. And there's a couple of answers here. If none of the answers suits you, then please type anything else in the chat regarding this question. Okay, so some of the results are a lot of people use Excel, which is something we see a lot within this field of APM. Some people use Visio, and a whole lot of other people use 60% uses something else. So I'm actually wondering what that would be. If you'd like to share that, sorry.
I have some answers in the chat. There are 6 people who told they use Blue Dolphin.
Okay, that's good.
Actually 7 now. Landsweeper is one, and Enterprise Architect is one that is being told, and a combination of Excel, PowerPoint, and Word.
All right, interesting. Okay, thank you for your answers. That will give me some insight on what your current challenges are or where you are as a group in terms of application portfolio management. So let's talk about application portfolio management now. So why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do APM? So there's 4 main causes, 4 main goals you want to accomplish. One of them is the optimal alignment between your application and your business needs. Having a well-defined application landscape, knowing what you have, knowing what it is used for, the application landscape towards your business, and also what the application landscape is comprised of, for example, in terms of technology. It can be very interesting to know this because it will allow you to align your application landscape to your business needs. Identifying your potential financial, functional, and security risks. So risk-based analysis. Where are you running into risk in your application landscape? And having that balance between cost and functionality in your capabilities. In this webinar, we're looking at capabilities as well. And ensuring your flexibility and agility towards the future. The leaner your application landscape is, the more easy it will be to change it as well. So let's go into detail on that. Alignment between application and business needs. The first step, and I will show you this also later on, is the first step in aligning is creating a central repository and creating dashboards that allows you to sort of like act as a communication channel between your business, IT, and management. Because the application landscape is usually the layer where your business people meet your IT people, and obviously your applications are usually used to fulfill a lot of your business processes and your capabilities. So the central repository is something that a lot of people will recognize. Also, you want to have insights in your functional fit of your applications. So you need to be able to have applications that actually do something that contribute to your capabilities and your processes. There's no use having applications in place that do nothing or very little to support your business. Identifying the gaps in your application usage. So knowing what applications are used in what processes and what capabilities can be really interesting to kind of split up your application landscapes in capabilities or domains. And obviously you want to reduce functional overlap for more efficiency in your business and also to cut down on costs. Identifying risks is important because if you are able to assess your applications on several layers like business and technical risks, you're able to identify the areas where you need to improve, obviously, or where you are running a certain risk. And we have a setup that I'll show you later on to create or to measure business risk, at least. And that risk can also be shown in the context of your capabilities. So instead of just looking at applications, you could be looking at capabilities, business capabilities, and being able to identify the risks you're running in those capabilities. Then balancing costs and functionality is always important. You want to have an application landscape that fits your business, but if it's at a really high cost, it might be interesting to lower those costs. So insight in your rationalization and consolidation is also something you want to achieve with application portfolio management. And the leaner and meaner your application landscape will increase your agility. The less baggage you have in terms of applications, the more easier it is to integrate new applications in your landscape, and also to be able to innovate faster and cut down on costs. The last one is also important, flexibility and agility. So maintaining overall insight in your application landscape, not just one time. I see a lot of organizations organizing their application landscape every once a couple of years. So they'll be doing a consolidation or rationalization project. But then after that project is done, no effort is put into maintaining the application landscape. It is really clear to us that you need to make sure that you keep those basic information up to date, because it allows you to easily start projects and changes in your environment, do impact analysis, for example. So governing that by defining an application portfolio management process and being able to identify the ownership of applications is important there as well. And then overall, the landscape could be really flexible, because by minimizing, for example, customization you do in applications, you prevent vendor lock-ins and vendor support. So that will allow you a leaner landscape. So let's jump into Blue Dolphin here and talk a little bit about the what of how we implement application portfolio management within Blue Dolphin. We have a model where we have a 4-phase, actually 5-phase model that will get you from the starting point, which we're going to be talking about today, to the end results in where you have several benefits. So let me explain this model. In the first phase, we are strictly looking at applications, and our main goal is to create a central application repository. So a list in Blue Dolphin of all your applications and some basic information on that. It will allow you to create a business risk score per application. Going to phase 2, we'll be adding capabilities because they reflect the way the organization works and what the organization needs to be able to do to perform their mission and vision. We'll be mapping capabilities to applications, and you'll be able to calculate a business risk per capability. In the later phases, which we're not going to be going into, but you'll be adding application functions. So you need what kind of functionality you have per application, and you'll be able to spot rationalization potential, for example, by using functional overlap. In phase 4, we'll be adding business process models so that you will know how an organization works versus what functionality it needs in terms of the applications. And it's in that phase that we are able to calculate the business value score and then do an analysis between business risk and business value. If we are in phase 4, you can then start defining projects to change your application landscape, so that you may either increase your business value or decrease your business risk. Like I said, we're going to be focusing on the start, or how you start with APM. So we're going to be focusing on these first two phases. Let's zoom in on those. So let's go to phase 1 first, the one central application repository. In this model, we have a couple of steps that we run through in this phase. The first step is establishing what information you need for the central application repository. Now, this can be anything you'd like, obviously. Obviously, there are going to be some questions or answers that you definitely want to have. So, for example, if we take this application up, these questions, we have some questions split up in certain areas. For example, the main thing you want to know is what kind of application we're looking into. What's the application name? What is the supplier? What is the generic description of the application? Maybe what's the website, or maybe some other generic information that you find interesting in that first phase. The main thing is that you actually know who is the owner and the admin for these applications, or either there could be a single owner or just a single admin, but as long as you know who knows more about these applications. Let me demonstrate that by an example. So if we look at this application, Dynamic CRM, you'll see that we have several parts of the information filled in. We know the application owner and the application admin, and from simply establishing that information, we are able to get us underway, because we now know who knows more about that application. The second step is that, we've defined what we want to know. And the second step is how to get to that data. Well, our second step will definitely be import information from sources you may have. So you may have, like you said in the poll, you might have Excel sheets, you might have a CMDB system, you might have a financial system containing informational applications, you might have a software inventory system, or any other source that contains information on your application landscape. So the step would be to import this into Blue Dolphin, so that we are able to combine information in Blue Dolphin from data sources. So inside of Blue Dolphin, you can have three ways of setting up your data. One of them is by just manually entering information. The second one is by using sources. For example, for this application, we have connected three different types of sources. We have an Excel sheet that we had. We have a connection to a financial applications containing some costs and some contract information. And we have a connection to a CMDB as an example that gives us information on application owner and admin, and also the incidents and changes for the past year. That information is fed into Blue Dolphin. It's connected to the information that we keep with any of those objects. So that way we're able to quickly fill the information into Blue Dolphin, and we know what kind of where to look for additional information. So after you've imported information from sources, and like I said, this could be virtually any source that you have, whether it's an Excel sheet or a CSV file or a custom database that you might have lying around, you can use this data to import it into Blue Dolphin. The third step then would be to enrich the information. So it might be that some of the information you have is not correct anymore. It might be that there's missing information, or that there's information that you really want to keep with the applications, but never inventory that information. So, for example, it could be that you have information lacking here. So you could then, for example, send out what we call a guest link. So since you know who the application owner is, and maybe that owner doesn't have a Blue Dolphin account, is not involved in Blue Dolphin, but you could simply create a guest link, and that guest link would allow the receiver of that guest link to add information to the to the application without having to be inside of Blue Dolphin. So I will send out a guest link via email. The receiver then receives an URL, and that URL will look something like this. It would just allow anybody that receives the link to change this. It might change the application version, or I might say there's not, change some remarks here. And I might say that my name is Jelle. I can save it, and that information will then be reflected inside of Blue Dolphin. So let me show you that. I've changed the application version, and I removed some remarks. So I could also track that using the history. So I could definitely see what has been changed. So I see here that the field version has been changed by Jelle. I also see that some of the other information has changed here. So we have full traceability of what has changed in your application repository. But the important part is that we are able to send out external questionnaires to people that can provide extra information on that application, including, for example, the questions you really want to know to create a business risk. So the way we've set this up, we've imported 5 questions that will calculate a business risk. So there is supplier support ranging from low to high and not applicable. There's a question whether there is application management in place. So is your application actually under management? Do you have people looking into the application, or is it just something you bought and never looked back on? Whether the application is end of life, the application is end of service, or whether the application is customized. Now that information can also be sent out, obviously, through a questionnaire.
Yes. Question before you continue. Ray asked, is there a guest link per application per questionnaire?
Yes, there is. Correct. There's a guest link per application. You can send out multiple guest links for the same application and the same questionnaire, or you could just send out one per application per questionnaire. Yes. So once you've sent out these questionnaires, you obviously want to take a look at the way what is working, what is going on with those guest links. So we can simply fire up a report that will state all our outstanding guest links with who they were sent to, when they were sent to, when they will be expiring, when they were read or saved. So you can track of how do you do with the information gathering. So you can do information gathering from, like I said, just having Blue Dolphin users inside of Blue Dolphin, or having people using a guest link, like I just showed you. Now, that process of enrichment of applications obviously needs some governance. It needs some form of tracking how far are we with this particular application. So if I have a list of applications, and let's say I have 30 applications, I want to know who have been filling in the information, how far are we? We can do this using completeness. The completeness bar here, which is at 100% here, this is actually governed by the number of questions that you have put to link to object completeness. So everything with a star here will actually count towards that object completeness. So you could have like 20 questions, of which 10 of them are important to you in that first phase. You mark them with object completeness, and you'll be notified, or you'll be able to see whether those 10 questions are filled in, and you can basically forget about the other 10. The way we can track this is by using a report, for example. Right here, I've created a Power BI report based on our data information coming from Blue Dolphin. And here you will see the application owner and then the amount of average object completeness. So for example, here I see that these 2 application admins, they both have the single application. They're almost filled, actually. And then there's some people who are kind of lacking here. So you see 2 applications here who have limited completeness. You're also able to click on this, and then you'll be transferred to the correct information into Blue Dolphin. But in any way, you're able to do these kinds of reports and make sure that you're tracking how much of your landscape it contains all the information that you actually want to gather in that first phase. So it basically comes down when everything is down to 100% here. I've done all the work, and there's governance going on there, making sure that people know when they're complete or not. So that's tracking progress. Now, if we have everything filled in and we have the APM and the business risk calculation, then we can start analyzing the application landscape. So one of the first things you'd like to do is get insight on your business risk. So once again, we have a report on it. And here is the report where we have all the applications in this particular demo site, which is not a few, it's only a couple of 30. And there's a business risk calculated for each of them, along with some green, yellow, and red indicators. So we could easily sort this by business risk, and we'll see all the applications that are running a higher business risk. The business risk is calculated. It's like an index that we use for the different questions that we ask for. Obviously, you are able to add them yourselves. We're completely free in that sense. You can add questions to it. You can change the way it calculates the business risk. You can even change the numbering on there. It's fully configurable. But simply having a business risk as a part of your APM strategy will allow you to at least get immediate insights on where you are running issues here. Also, along with the cost, this could be interesting. So, for example, this is a quite expensive application, so it's running risks. So that might be your first target, for example, to start looking into whether you can decrease that business risk. Finally, you need some governance surrounding your application landscape, or maybe some visualizations. There's 3 phases. There's onboarding of applications, there's updating and offloading of applications. So if we go to a view where we display the current landscape, which is all my applications in this limited example, and you'll see these applications, whenever a new application enters your landscape, you'll need to have onboarding governance so that you know that the application is inside of Blue Dolphin, it has the information, all the necessary stuff has been taken care of, it's been put on this particular board, and then there needs to be an update cycle. So every couple of months, it's good to update the information or check with your application admins or owners if the application is still up to date, so that you can do continuous investigation on continuous analysis of your landscape. For example, with the information that we have in here, we can do stuff like, okay, show me where the applications are hosted, for example. So here we can basically zoom in on these questions like, okay, which applications are running in my on-premises environment, which ones are running in an external data center, or which ones are running in a public IaaS data center, or maybe just plot them all. You can do this for every type of information in Blue Dolphin, including relationships with for example, process or capabilities. We'll show that later also. But having continuous governance makes sure that you keep your information up to date. You keep having the value of being able to do an impact analysis, for example. So phase 1, allowing you to create a central application repository, getting started with that, making sure that you are able to calculate business risk, that you're able to spot the immediate threats that are in your application landscape, having a governance in place that allows you to keep updating your application information. And like we showed you, it's very easy to collaborate on that within Blue Dolphin, either by using questionnaires or by getting people inside of Blue Dolphin and making sure they update the information in the system. Also keeping full track of the changes that have been made by use of the history tab here allows you to have full control of that single repository. Going forward to phase 2, where we'll be adding capabilities to the model. Now, going into phase 2, what is important there is, as we are starting with capabilities, it is vital that you have a capability model. Now, how do you establish a capability model? There's several ways to do this. One of them is, for example, if you are in an industry where there is a reference model, think about a municipality or banking, or there's a lot of industries that have reference models. A reference model, along with the enterprise architect, could create a reference model suited for your particular organization. And it's vital that you align this with your C-level executives. This is what we find in organizations, that usually when defining capabilities, it can be something that your higher level or the higher level executives in your organization also want to say something about that. They usually have a good grip on what the current capabilities of the organization are. So figuring that out along with a reference model makes it a little bit easier. Or you could use a reference model right away, specifically like in municipalities, for example. If there are no reference models in the industry, then you are basically creating one yourselves. It's not hard. We have experience doing this. So if you're in a position where you need a capability model, for example, for creating application portfolio management, contact us, and it's usually something that can be done in a couple of days by just sitting down with people and talking about the way the organization operates. An example of a capability model here for this particular demo This organization is basically a pharmacist with physical stores. So it is divided into primary capabilities and some supporting capabilities. And within those primaries, you'll see stuff like warehouse management for keeping stock, transport management for moving the stuff in the warehouse to your stores, management of the stores themselves, management of orders, customer care, financial management, and so forth. So any organization has capabilities. It is the way you define what you are capable of in order to create your, to fulfill your mission and vision, so to speak. So basically, that's why it's also not as hard to define, but it's good to have because you're able to do stuff with this, and you're actually kind of dividing your organization within those capabilities. That will allow it to be a little bit more easier to zoom in on capabilities instead of, for example, a whole set of applications. So you have that capability model. Now, the next thing you need to do is connecting the capabilities to your applications, because every application has a purpose, and the purpose should be that it either provides something to execute on a capability, either one or more of the capabilities. So if you do that and you go back to the capability view, we can actually map out the applications on top of this capability model. So what we've done here is we've highlighted all the applications on top of the capability model so that you can see the more colors a capability have, it means it is supported by multiple applications. If there's just a single color, it's supported by a single application. And you can do zooming in on this. So you could say, where is this application used? Or where is this application used? So by having that information in there, it allows you to do analysis based on capabilities, but also the other way around. You can also map out applications towards capabilities. Obviously, it's one of the features you have because we are creating relationships between applications and capabilities in this model. So there's your connection. Now, if you have a large capability model, you have a large set of applications, probably a little bit more than the one we have in this demo, but you have like 400 or 500 applications, you need to track progress of where, if you have connected all of them. So we provide a report on that as well. So here's a report basically stating the number of applications per capability on the pie chart here. So you know that kind of how is the whole application landscape divided into your capabilities. Now on this one, there's really a lot of applications supporting IT capabilities, which is something we also see a lot in organizations because IT usually tends to use a whole lot of smaller or sometimes some larger applications that all support that single capability of IT, at least if you don't split up IT in separate sub-capabilities. And obviously, there's also a lot of innovation applications here. So this is the whole, taking a view on the whole capability model. And on the right side here, we see flagged applications or flagged capabilities, I must say. And those are capabilities that do not have an application assigned. So basically, this could be your working list. You want at least one application to be connected to a capability. Otherwise, why have the capability? Or maybe the capability is not supported by applications at all. In some cases, it could be. Most of the times, you'll see that there's at least one application supporting a capability in these kinds of enterprise architecture models. So you can just zoom in on those. Also, you can click on these, and then you'll see the applications that are connected to those capabilities.
Can I ask you a question, Tom, in the meantime? Perfect. I will save some for the end, but this one is maybe relevant right now. Ray asked that his reference architecture does not model capabilities, but model business function. Is that useful in the same way?
Yeah, you could basically use the same setup there. So the question if you use a capability or business function is a question of definition. Archimate modeling, as we use here, would tend to prefer capabilities, but the idea behind the business function is virtually kind of the same. So it is a function that the business performs, so that it can fulfill his mission or vision. So you could probably interchange them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now once we have our capability relationships in order, we have them connected, or at least we have them in some form that we think that's valid, we can also get insights on the business risk per capability. So once again, like we said in the model, we have capabilities connected to applications. So we could go to a list of capabilities and their risk. So for example here, these are all the capabilities we have, or at least the ones that have applications, obviously. And once again, by sorting them on business risk, you'll be able to spot the capabilities where you have the most business risk. Now, you could be a little smart about looking into this, because obviously this is the one that's running the highest risk, the human resources capability. But if we dig in deeper, you'll see that's only a single application that's responsible for performing this capability. It's also not one that is really expensive, whereas the other one, called warehouse management, is actually also pretty high on risk, as is something that's supported by 2 applications. One of them is potentially running a lot of business risk, which costs also a lot. So immediately, by splitting up these applications into capabilities, you can get a more divided view, or easier target actually. So instead of looking into applications, which usually the business, they know that they use applications in their daily operations, but by actually splitting it into capabilities, it's more towards the business. So there are going to be departments in charge of the capability warehouse management. That is something you can go to them just by saying, hey, your capabilities are running some risk. There's a lot of cost involved. This is the first step we want to take. This is the first action we want to take on that capability. So by splitting them up into capabilities, you are directly involving the business in this as well. So once again, the capability model, providing a way for you to split up and connect to the business, because the business can recognize capabilities. I think that's a strong point. That's why we want to include C-level executives here, so that they know that they agree on capabilities and they know what the capabilities are within the organization, and they recognize these capabilities is important, because they're easy to recognize the way of business than they're recognizing the applications that are used to fulfill this business. So that's why we're hooking these up. Once again, important to do this. It's quite easy to connect them. Just let me show you that. Actually, you can do that either from the application level. So I can say relation to business here, what capabilities supported by this application, and I can basically click the capabilities in my model which this application is supporting. Just click them, we'll create a relationship. You can do it the other way around from the capability as well. So let's take physical inventory here. You'll see objects, you'll see right here. You'll see what applications are required for this capability, and we know that there's a single application here, and we can also click that and include that. So the model is really easy to change or to adapt. And also for the capabilities, you can do the same thing as in your applications. You could send out quest links as well. Most of the times that is done from the application itself, but you can also do it the other way around. So to recap this, phase 1 and phase 2 are all about how do you get started. Getting started using getting a single application repository list, getting the information from sources, information from your specialists, from your application owners or application admins, tracking that progress using completeness. Then moving on to mapping capabilities to your applications, so that you are left with a model where you can derive business risk from. Like I said before, the business risk can be calculated in any way that you'd like. Currently, we're using 4 questions in this example, or 5 actually. You can change them yourself. You can also change the way that is calculated. So please not be limited by this model, but it is an expandable model in entirety. That's really the way we use application portfolio management, the first 2 phases. that's the end of the things of my presentation now. So I would like to go to some questions, if there are any questions.
Yes. I have a question from Gerry from more the beginning of the presentation. Could you tell something about how do you minimize customization by APM?
So you mean customization of applications, I presume?
Yes, it wasn't that part of the presentation.
Yeah, so the thing about sometimes you cannot eliminate customization, but you can take customization or the amount of customization that you need. You can take that, you can add that or take that into account when adding new applications to your landscape, or you could take it into account as a means of that you want to get rid of applications that are highly customized. What we know about highly customized applications is that they tend to lead to vendor lock-in. They tend to lead to lock-in dependent on specific people that have knowledge of the customizations. So in general, it's advisable to move away from those, specifically for the applications that are in, let's say there's a definition called mode 1 and mode 2. Mode 1 applications are applications that everybody uses, like the administrative applications, financial applications. Usually it's better to leave out customization there and basically only do customization for the applications that really define you as an organization, so the unique capabilities of your organization. But by eliminating customization, you are more flexible because you're easier to get rid of the application. That's the main reason we stated that.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from Ray, if Solventa, Power BI, that kind of tooling, is that all integrated in Blue Dolphin?
No, well, I've showed you the reports inside of Blue Dolphin here. These are these ones. These are inside of Blue Dolphin. The Power BI reports I showed you are basically Power BI is not something we provide. Power BI, it can be Power BI, or it can be Tableau or SAS or Cognos or any other business intelligence tool that can handle OData feeds. And basically we supply the OData information from Blue Dolphin, and we've used that to create a report. So no, Power BI is not included, but the default reporting is included.
Okay, thank you. Then the last question I have here, if anyone else still has a question, please send us. Heidi is wondering if you have some examples of the capabilities that are being used within the local government. I assume in the Netherlands, if you have some examples for that.
Well, we do. The municipalities obviously employ GEMMA, which is an abbreviation for a thing I forgot now, but that includes quite a large reference models, which also includes business functions, I think, which we could translate the capabilities. Yes, as Value Blue, we do have them. I don't have them in this demo site, but yeah, if you're interested, we could show you that, definitely. If you leave your contact details, somebody will contact you and will be able to explain that to you maybe in a separate session.
Okay, thank you. I got some reactions back that the questions from before are well answered now. So there were the questions on my side I have in the chat.
All right. Well, if there's no additional questions, then I'd like to ask you, well, whatever if you have any questions, hit me up using the email address, or hit anybody else up from Value Blue for maybe a quick call with regards to the webinar and the contents of it. Also, you can join other webinars. We host webinars very frequently. Please be aware of those if you're interested. And don't forget to evaluate our webinar. You'll receive an email with the replay link and the slides, and also some evaluation. We greatly appreciate the evaluation opportunity. Thanks. Well, thanks for joining, and hope to see you next time.